Adam stepped back into the main office of North Peak Engineering after a week away, the Colorado air still fresh in his mind. The first voice he heard was that of his boss, Kenneth Hoffman. "Now that you're finally back, hope you know you're easily replaceable," Kenneth said with a smirk. Adam didn't respond. He was used to this. At 49, with 12 years of government contract experience under his belt, he'd built the relationships that kept North Peak's lights on. But Kenneth saw him as just another engineer in a cheap suit. "Thanks for letting me know," Adam replied calmly, setting down his briefcase. Kenneth laughed and retreated to his corner office, admiring his reflection in the computer screen. He'd been Adam's boss for 3 years, ever since the company restructured. Before that, Adam reported directly to the CEO, Jonathan Rivers. Things were different then. Settling at his desk, Adam found 47 emails about the Henderson defense contract, the $25 million deal Kenneth loved to brag about landing. But it was Adam who'd spent 6 months guiding it through procurement channels Kenneth didn't even know existed. The phone rang. It was Colonel Patricia Barnes from the Department of Defense. "Adam, good to have you back. We need to discuss timeline adjustments for Phase 2. As Adam pulled up the specifications, he heard Kenneth in his office, already on another call, probably with Jonathan, taking credit for approvals that had come through during Adam's absence. After finishing with Colonel Barnes, Adam stared at his screen. His cursor hovered over a job site he'd bookmarked months earlier but never used. 12 years. He'd built every government relationship this company had. He knew which officers needed specs in person, which required 3-week review cycles, and which contractors were competing for the same bids. Kenneth knew none of it. Kenneth emerged from his office. "Don't forget the quarterly report is due Friday," he said without looking at Adam. "And next time you take vacation during a critical phase, maybe give the team a heads up." Adam nodded silently. The team. As if anyone else in the building could navigate the labyrinth of federal procurement. Something settled in his chest, not anger, but clarity. He thought back to when Jonathan Rivers hired him right out of the Navy. He was 27, fresh from a deployment where he'd handled procurement logistics in places the Pentagon didn't name. Those early years, he was everywhere: trade shows in D.C., secure facilities near Atlanta, 5 a.m. calls with officials who needed clarifications. He learned who made the real decisions and who just signed the papers. His security clearance was higher than anyone else's at North Peak, the kind that couldn't be rushed or transferred. Kenneth had no clearance at all. For 9 years, Adam worked directly with Jonathan. "It's not about the lowest bid," Jonathan would say. "It's about trust and expertise they can't get anywhere else." Then came the restructuring. Kenneth arrived with an MBA and a fresh perspective. In his first week, he asked Adam for a breakdown of their government business. Adam spent 3 days preparing a detailed presentation. Kenneth listened for 20 minutes, then asked, "Can't we just bid lower and win more?" That should have been his warning. Over the next 3 years, Kenneth took credit for every success while avoiding the complicated relationship work that made it possible. When Colonel Barnes called, she asked for Adam. When Huntsville had technical questions, they scheduled around his availability. But in management meetings, Kenneth presented it all as his strategic vision. The worst part was how Kenneth treated government contracts like any other business deal. He'd interrupt calls to suggest efficiency improvements, schedule meetings during critical deadlines, and tell Jonathan the division was finally running like a real business unit, as if the previous 11 years had been amateur hour. 3 days after the "easily replaceable" comment, Adam sat in his truck outside the office, engine running, when a text came through from Vincent Shaw, CEO of Sterling Solutions, North Peak's biggest competitor. "Adam, still interested in that senior partner position we discussed? Call me." 6 months earlier, at an industry conference, Vincent had mentioned an opening. Adam had brushed it off out of loyalty. But now Kenneth's words echoed in his mind. He called Vincent. "Adam, good to hear from you, Vincent said. We need someone who can step in immediately. Full partnership track, equity stake, and every government relationship you bring stays yours to manage. No micromanagement. No credit sharing. What kind of timeline? Adam asked. 2 weeks to start. 1 if you can swing it. Through the office window, Adam saw Kenneth gesturing animatedly on another call with Jonathan, likely boasting about the division's performance. Send me the paperwork, Adam said. The next morning, he typed a 2-sentence resignation letter, effective immediately. I'm resigning from my position at North Peak Engineering. Thank you for the opportunity. He printed it, signed it, and walked straight to Jonathan's office. Jonathan looked up, surprised. Adam, what's this about? Kenneth's right, Adam said, placing the letter on the desk. I am easily replaceable. So you won't have trouble finding someone else to manage the Henderson contract, the Wright-Patterson renewal, or the Aberdeen proposal due next month. Jonathan's face paled. Wait, let's talk about this. I've taken a position with Sterling Solutions. They seem to think my experience has value. He cleaned out his desk while Kenneth was at lunch, 12 years of files, contact lists, and notes into 3 boxes. The database stayed on the server, but the real relationships, built on trust and years of service, walked out with him. Kenneth returned as Adam was loading the last box into his truck. He watched from the parking lot but said nothing. As Adam drove away, his phone buzzed. A text from Colonel Barnes to Kenneth, copied to Jonathan, Henderson defense contract cancelled. Effective immediately. Jonathan called that evening. Adam was in Vincent's office, signing paperwork. Adam, we need to talk. This is bigger than you and Kenneth. Is it? Adam kept his voice level. The Henderson contract is worth $25 million. Colonel Barnes won't take Kenneth's calls. She says the deal's off unless you're managing it personally. That's unfortunate. Don't play games, Adam. 12 years should count for something. You're right. It should. But you put Kenneth in charge of decisions he doesn't understand, relationships he didn't build, and a business he's never worked. Kenneth has an MBA from Emory. He knows business. Government contracts aren't business, they're relationships. Trust. Clearances that take years to get. Kenneth can't even access half the files for the Henderson contract. Colonel Barnes has worked with me for 8 years. She trusts my judgment. She won't start over with someone new just because Kenneth has an MBA. A long pause followed. Adam signed Sterling partnership agreement. What do you want? Jonathan finally asked. I want Kenneth to understand that some people aren't easily replaceable. This is about ego. No. It's about competence. Kenneth spent 3 years taking credit for work he didn't do. Now he gets to find out what the division looks like without the person who actually ran it. He hung up and turned off his phone. By the next morning, 3 more contracts were cancelled. Wright-Patterson pulled out of a $15 million project. Aberdeen suspended an $8 million deal. Each message was the same: primary contractor relationship terminated. Vincent called him in. Adam, did you know this would happen? I knew Kenneth didn't understand the business. I didn't know how quickly clients would react. Your old company just lost $48 million because one manager told one employee he was easily replaceable. That's one way to see it. What's the other? Kenneth spent 3 years undervaluing the person who built every government relationship North Peak had. Now he's learning what those relationships were worth. His phone rang again, Colonel Barnes herself. Adam, there's confusion, she said. North Peak thinks they can keep the contract with different personnel. That's not the case. The Henderson project requires your background and clearance. The timeline doesn't allow for a learning curve. And after 8 years, I'm not interested in starting over. After the call, Adam sat quietly. He'd always thought he was building relationships for North Peak. But from the client's perspective, the trust was with him personally. The company was just the framework. Vincent nodded when Adam shared this. It's common in government contracting. Technical expertise and clearances are personal. They don't transfer with letterhead. Kenneth never understood that. He saw contracts as company assets. Now he's learning that $48 million was never really North Peak's, it was yours, and you were sharing it with them. Later, Adam learned Kenneth held a company meeting calling the losses temporary setbacks and suggesting government work was too restrictive. Vincent read the update and smiled. Your former boss is about to learn some blessings come with very expensive price tags. 3 days later, Vincent proposed absorbing North Peak's entire government division by leveraging Adam's relationships. Colonel Barnes had already called, asking to fast-track the Henderson contract with Sterling. Wright-Patterson and Aberdeen followed, offering extensions and new projects worth over $70 million. Kenneth called, desperate. Adam, this is getting out of hand. Jonathan's willing to offer a raise, a promotion, you'd be Kenneth's boss. What changed his mind about specialized expertise? Maybe I was wrong, but you're destroying a company that gave you 12 years. I'm not destroying anything. I'm working where people understand the difference between management credentials and real expertise. The board is asking how we lost $48 million in a week. Are you telling them you never got security clearance? That you've never worked a government project start to finish? That you told your only qualified contractor he was easily replaceable? Kenneth hung up. Jonathan called next. Kenneth's gone. I'm offering you his job, plus equity and a 40% raise. Why didn't that matter when Kenneth said I was replaceable? I trusted his assessment. Now I know what $48 million in losses feels like. The following Monday, Vincent put Jonathan on speakerphone. He proposed subcontracting North Peak's government division to Sterling. Adam joined in. Hello, Jonathan. A long silence followed. Adam, I should have known you'd be part of this. I am this conversation. Every government relationship you're trying to license belongs to me. The clients made that clear. Be reasonable. North Peak invested 12 years in you. And Kenneth spent 3 years explaining how easily replaceable that investment was. Turns out he was wrong. Vincent made a counteroffer. Sterling would acquire North Peak's government assets, office space, equipment, and staff, for market value. The contracts and clients stayed with Adam. That would eliminate our government division, Jonathan said weakly. Just like Kenneth eliminated it when he told me I was easily replaceable. 2 weeks later, Kenneth was fired. The board meeting lasted 6 hours. Jonathan took control of the remnants of the division, but there was little left. Most staff transferred to Sterling. Engineering shifted to commercial projects. Kenneth struggled to find new work. Government contracting is a small industry, and everyone knew the story. No one wanted the man who lost $48 million by dismissing the person who generated it. Adam sat in his new office at Sterling, looking out at the Memphis skyline. Colonel Barnes had called Jonathan to ensure he understood, this wasn't personal, it was about professionalism, competence, and trust. Vincent entered. Everything all right? Just reflecting. 3 weeks ago, Kenneth thought an MBA made him more valuable than 12 years of relationships. Now he knows the difference. Kenneth's name became a cautionary tale. His reputation never recovered. Every success under Adam's leadership at Sterling was a reminder of what arrogance had cost North Peak. When Adam signed the Henderson renewal 6 months later in Colonel Barnes's office, he understood the real lesson: respect earned through dedication and skill will always outlast authority from a title or a degree. Some people are indeed irreplaceable. And others are all too easily forgotten.